Saltz, and I'm the Vice President of Advocacy for the National Council of Jewish Women in Los Angeles. And for those of you who have never been here before, I'd like to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are a grassroots organization of volunteers and advocates who turn progressive ideas into action. We are inspired by Jewish values. We strive for social justice by improving the quality of life for women, children, and families, and by safeguarding individual rights and freedoms, which is one of the reasons we are dealing with the topic of bullying today. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, and you'd like to join us, we are an equal opportunity organization. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to be a woman. You just have to say to yourself, hey, I want to be at the forefront of social change, and I want to make a difference. On the way out, there are membership cards on the table. There are people here that you can talk to. And hopefully some of you will say, I think this is a place that I'd like to put some roots down and do some work. I would like to thank today's event is being co-sponsored by the City of West Hollywood and the Gay Straight Alliance Network, and we're thrilled to have them as our co-sponsors. I also would like to thank Project 10, Fairfax High School, Los Angeles Unified School District, the Trevor Project, and certainly last but not least, CBS 2 KCAL for helping us put this project together. We are so honored and so lucky to have as our moderator today, Pat Harvey. Now, I'm sure all of us have seen her, have heard her, and you have a bio on your chair that goes on forever, because there's very little that this woman has not done. But I would just really like to just highlight a couple of the things that make her so special. First of all, she's an award-winning journalist who was named co-anchor of CBS 2 at the 5 and 11 o'clock broadcast in April of 2010. This comes after a 20-year run in primetime news on sister station KCAL 9. Aside from her regular duties, and aside from the fact that she's a mother and a wife, she reports regularly on issues of concern to Southern California and the world. Again, this is why she is here. She has received the Genie Award for Excellence in TV Broadcasting from Southern California chapter of the American Women in Radio and Television. She's only the second news journalist in the chapter's near 60-year history to receive the honor. And so for her to come here to us is really just amazing. And what she says is that her most rewarding work is reporting on stories that have a major impact on people's lives. And the one that I picked out is because it is something that we at Council work for: women's rights, a woman's choice to do what she wants to do with her body. And in 1988, Pat Harvey went to Capitol Hill, testified in the Illinois State Legislature following an investigative report into the high number of deaths of women because of faulty pap smears. As a result, the governor of Illinois passed new legislation to regulate cytology labs in the state, and a lab in Tarzana, California was closed down. So that is working and then seeing the results. Why bullying? Why do we choose that as a topic for today's brown bag? As someone who is an educator educator, has been an educator my entire life. I see states, I see school districts stemming a tide of anti-gay bullying in American schools. And believe it or not, this is not the issue. The issue now is that we are fighting a powerful group that is out to stop the anti-bullying curriculum. Many in the radical religious right have been leading a concerted effort to stop the program that seeks to protect LGBT youth from bullying and to deny the problem that anti-gay bullying exists. There are some wonderful articles to read. You can go on the website. Big Bullies, How the Religious Right is Trying to Make Schools Safe for Bullies and Dangerous for Gay Kids. This report has been promoted by blogs and news sites, and the anti-bullying movement sounded like a joke, but it's frighteningly real. So the religious right is desperately trying to protect the bullies and further marginalize the gay and gay-perceived kids by stopping efforts to make schools safe for every child. You are surrounded by every child here today, and our people will talk about what is going on locally, what is going on in the city, what is going on in the state. And I'd like to now introduce Pat Harvey, who will take over. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm going to stay seated here. Their attention is going to come here because you're going to hear from some very important and knowledgeable people. I just want to first of all thank the National Council of Jewish Women. It's an organization that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Teen bullying is an issue that we have covered, I want to say really over the last several years. Although I know of its existence for probably many decades, but I think the outrage now is I'm just surprised, really surprised at the level of the heights that people will go through in bullying young people in this fashion. There's been too many times where we have reported deaths, albeit whether it's suicide or a homicide because of a person's gender and orientation, a young person's gender and orientation. And many times the stories that we reported on are children that had so much to offer their communities, their neighborhoods, their cities, the country for that matter. So this has to stop, and it has to begin somewhere. So I want to commend all of you for coming together for the common good and what we're trying to get across today. So without me going on and on, I want to introduce you to some very distinguished panel members who can provide some solutions for us and kind of guide us through this maze of, I want to call it madness for no reason. So with that, I'm going to introduce them first, and then each will make a statement, and we'll open it up to panel comments from them, and then later in the program, we'll have a question and answer period, okay? All right, well first I'm going to start with to my far left. Please welcome Sarah Train. She's the Education Manager for the Trevor Project. Sarah has shared her diverse experiences in education and training with the Trevor Project team since the fall of 2010. She was born and raised in Sucre, Bolivia, and moved to Los Angeles at the age of 18. She graduated from Biola University in 2007 with a BA in Sociology and a certificate in International Development Studies. After considering returning to South America, Sarah decided her skills in cross-cultural communication could best be utilized empowering communities in Los Angeles. She pursued her passion for public health as a program and education specialist with the National Health Foundation, and later as a health educator for HealthNet Inc., developing curriculums and conducting bilingual trainings throughout LA County on everything from sex education to family nutrition. And seated next to Sarah is Daniel Solis. He's the Southern California Program Manager for the Gay Straight Alliance Network. Daniel is a native of Los Angeles, and as the gay son of Salvadoran immigrants, Daniel has long been aware of the complicated nature of struggles for justice. Coming out in high school, Daniel helped co-found the first Gay Straight Alliance at his school and successfully worked to reduce homophobia in teachers, administrators, and students. He's worked since then in anti-racist and anti-war organizing in Ohio and Los Angeles. He's also had his writing exploring the intersection between queerness, Latino identity, and masculinity published in the groundbreaking online anthology Beyond Masculinity, as well as Readings for Diversity and Social Justice, 2nd edition. So lot for such a young man. All right, Daniel. And seated next to Daniel and to my immediate left is Miss Gail Roth, Education Director, Friends of Project 10 Incorporated. Gail taught health education on the junior and senior high school levels and part-time on the community college and university levels for 35 years. She worked with the LA Unified School District's HIV/AIDS Prevention Project, the Impact Program, and with the Office of Educational Equity Compliance as the Project 10 advisor. She retired from the LAUSD in 2005. Gail's current duties include speaking to education professionals, community members, and parent groups on LGBT youth issues. She has authored articles and consulted on many projects related to the health status of all youth, including the LGBT youth population. Additionally, Gail helps to coordinate the annual Models of Excellence Scholarship Program, the LGBTQ Youth Prom, and is a consultant for the annual Models of Pride Conference. You really want to hear from her, and believe me, she is an excellent storyteller. I have a little inside info on that, okay? And next to me, to my right, is Bev Meyer. You may recognize Bev. She's the Fairfax High School Safe School Ambassadors Program Advisor. Bev's an educator, teacher, trainer, theater director, and workshop facilitator who has made wide experience, or had wide experience, working with anti-racist and human rights programs with participants from diverse backgrounds and from many different countries. As a teacher trainer with the Facing History in Ourselves program's European office, she worked with teachers from Central and Eastern Europe and was involved in developing and adapting curriculum for schools in this region. She has also made major presentations on human rights, children's rights, teaching for tolerance, and using the arts across the curriculum at numerous international conferences and seminars. In fact, she's just back from a trip, which she's going to tell you about in a moment. She's the founder and director of the International Festival of Tolerance, Learning, Sharing, and Understanding Through the Arts, held annually in Terezín, Czech Republic. That's where she just arrived from. The festival brings together students and teachers from schools in Western and former East Bloc countries for a weekend spent working together on issues of tolerance and international understanding in an extraordinary setting, the former Nazi concentration camp in Terezín. And she is an alumna of Fairfax High School. And next to Bev is a young lady who we will call Haku. She is our student representative. She's from Fairfax High, and she has been a recipient of some of the things that we're going to talk about today, specifically teen bullying. So with that, I would like to again start from my far left, and Sarah, if you can lead it off and give us a 2 to 3 minute statement about the Trevor Project.
All right. Well, it is a pleasure for me to be here and to be a part of such an amazing panel. We're really grateful for this opportunity, and I know you mentioned in my introduction, Pat, that I often think about going back to South America, especially during siesta hour. This time of the day, I start thinking about going back to Bolivia. But I think what's really important for us to hear today, apart from this discussion and the dialogue we're going to have, are some of the resources that are available. And the Trevor Project is here to share the programs that we do have available, and just start off this conversation saying if anything does come up during the time we are together today that you might want more answers or you might want more dialogue regarding just anything that's expressed, just know that the Trevor Project does have a 24-hour, 7 days a week lifeline, which you can call at any time, and it's open and available to anybody. And our counselors who have been trained and are just really excited about the role that they have in continuing conversations and dialogue with people are prepared to answer your call. So if anything does come up, the number for that is 1-866-4U-TREVOR, And several of you received a card on your seat that has the Lifeline number on it. There's also some more on the resource table in the back of the room, but that is a resource that is available. The Trevor Project is a nonprofit organization that is the leading national organization in providing suicide prevention and crisis intervention for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning or queer youth. We not only do service around suicide prevention and crisis intervention, but we also do a lot of education. So we have workshops that we do in classes and with teachers, maybe with administration, regarding how we can continue to create safer schools and safer environments for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning youth. We also have extensive online resources from our database to Dear Trevor, which is a way to submit a question, non-time sensitive question, and just ask things that maybe you wouldn't have the opportunity to ask anybody else or feel safe doing so. So I ask that everybody go to our website, thetrevorproject.org, and check that out if you're interested. One of the statistics that I think is important to have in mind as we continue this dialogue is that LGBTQ youth, we know statistically, are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers. I'm going to let that soak in for a second. If you think about the impact that that has. And it's not because you identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning. It's not because you maybe are thinking about that. It is because of the reaction that youth receive when they do start questioning their sexuality or their gender identity. And I think that is why it's so important to have these events where we can all come together and start this dialogue, because you having this conversation after this event today with somebody else who may be continuing to create an environment that is not safe for somebody is making change. And that's how we make smaller changes that ultimately have a larger impact. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Daniel?
A little clap there. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel, as you all know. And I work for the Gay Straight Alliance Network, and we are a national organization that works with students in starting Gay Straight Alliance clubs in their middle schools and high schools. And for folks who might not know, Gay Straight Alliance clubs are student-led clubs that work on middle school and high school campuses and college campuses to provide a safe space for LGBT students to come get the resources they need, like from organizations such as the Trevor Project or Friends of Project 10, as well as also begin to educate their peers and their staff members to ensure that not only is that classroom safe, but that the entire school is safe. And so in that capacity, I work with clubs from Bakersfield to San Diego, helping them transform their school environments and create a safe space for LGBT students, but also to make permanent policy and structural changes in their school environment so that when those students graduate, the school is still much more improved and safer and in compliance with the law than it was before.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Gail?
Good afternoon, and I'm Gail Rolfe, Education Director of Friends of Project 10, and formerly the Project 10 Advisor of the LA Unified School District. Project 10, I'm thrilled to say, was founded at Fairfax High School in 1984 by my partner, Dr. Virginia Uribe. So I'm thrilled to see Fairfax High School students, and I see Fairfax all over the place here. So I'm happy to be here. This program was founded in 1984 in response to an anti-gay incident that happened at Fairfax, and it wasn't the only one of its kind. It was the one that sort of threw the students over the edge, and the students at that point said enough is enough, and we're tired of being treated as invisible, we're tired of being treated as throwaway students, and they sought out Virginia Uribe, who at the time was a counselor at the school and was not out at the time. She was in the closet like every other teacher in the district and throughout the country. They started meeting informally to talk about issues of harassment and discrimination and how the educational institution and social institutions were treating these students by further victimizing them and literally driving them out of school. The young man, Chris, who was assaulted in this attack, happened to be an African-American young 16-year-old gay male or perceived to be gay. And when they went through his records, they found out that this was his 4th high school that he had attended by 10th grade. And the perpetrators of the harassment were given, what, a 2-3 day suspension and returned to school. You know, naughty, naughty, we don't fight at school. And Chris never returned and presumably dropped out. And you know, this was at the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And presumably he's dead at this point, as this is what happened to many of our youth at that time who did drop out because they had nowhere to go but the streets at that time. The students started meeting informally. To make a long story short, fast forward, Virginia Uribe listened to what the students had to say, put together student support groups very informally, had the support of her principal, Warren Steinberg, who also notably was the founder of the LA City Human Relations Commission and the only member of that commission to stay on that commission throughout the duration of his life. He was a wonderful man who really, truly supported the program, and we had a school board at the time, likewise, that for reasons that could not be explained until much later, also supported this informal program of student support groups, and later on trainings and staff developments for district educators, administrators, parents, and ultimately she went around the country talking about Project 10 shortly after it was attacked 2 years later by the religious right, and at that time Lou Sheldon and the Traditional Values Coalition. As a result of those attacks, someone sent a $25 check because of the media attention, sent a $25 check to Fairfax High, made out to Project 10, and she says, well, I don't want Fairfax High to get this money, we'll never see it. So she started up the 501c3 Friends of Project 10, and we have some brochures out in the foyer here, and started a scholarship program, wrote a handbook for educators, and a video was developed, Who's Afraid of Project 10. Later on, a library project where donors donated library books, gay-positive library books to school libraries. And this went on for a number of years, and it was pretty much an unfunded program. The district had her teaching 3 periods a day and running Project 10 3 periods a day. And so she was limited in terms of what she could do, but she did a lot. She broke ground. And Project 10 served as a springboard and a model for other programs throughout the country, such as GLSEN, GSA Network, National Youth Advocacy Coalition, and a number of others. She retired in 1998, but not after, or not before the formation of the Gay Lesbian Education Commission of the LAUSD, which later was abolished in 1998, along with all the other education commissions, for reasons I know but I can't state publicly because we can't substantiate it. But our commission had nothing to do with the problems that were going on in the district at that time. But the Gay Lesbian Education Commission created a number of wonderful programs, including writing curriculum for elementary, middle school, and high schools that included LGBT people in history and the arts and the sciences and so on. They formed a scholarship program, the Peter Kaufman Memorial Scholarship, in honor of one of the commissioner's sons who died as a result of complication of HIV/AIDS. They started up the Models of Pride Conference, which to this day keeps growing and growing, which is a free youth conference for now middle school, high school, and college-age students. And this year's students, it'll be at USC, Saturday, October 15th. We outgrew the old venue, Occidental College, where last year we had 1,000 people run through it in one day, free conference, including educators, parents, and students. We took over the programs of the commission, Friends of Project 10 did, when that commission was abolished, and merged some of our scholarship program. We took over the prom, LGBTQ youth prom, Models of Pride, and continued producing those events and continue to do so. Last year we finally Models of Pride got so big and so costly, we turned it over to LifeWorks, which will be the major funders and producers of the conference, but we still work closely with them to produce it. And this Friday night is our LGBTQ youth prom, and scholarships are due this Saturday. We give $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 scholarships to students who have demonstrated a commitment to LGBT civil rights, and those students regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, are eligible to apply. What we did in the district with Project 10 is expanded the program. We infiltrated virtually every office in the district, and I have witnesses here in the office to attest to that. Any office that had to do with policy, developing policy for anti-discrimination, harassment, bullying, whatever it was, we brought them to the table. And the way I got them to the table, and I was a teacher advisor, I was not an administrator, is I brought in the community from the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. We formed a LA School Police and LA Police, what we called LGBT cadre, so we got the police departments on the same page. We brought in the transgender community to develop a transgender reference guide for the school district. We participated in developing a bullying policy for the district that is still there. I understand it's undergoing revision. We worked with them on their second step program, impact programs. We ran student support groups through the district supported impact program, which was funded by Title IV money. But that money has since disappeared, and some schools are still running those programs on their own, but it is not a district-wide program. We developed an LGBT anti-bias training with the help of not only community groups, but also including the ACLU, Lambda Legal, the Anti-Defamation League, and Human Rights Watch. And we perfected that training, and that training continues today. And I just want people to note real quickly, Stephen Jimenez, raise your hand. He is the Project 10 specialist for the school district, working on the Educational Equity Compliance Office, and Stephen investigates harassment complaints. Stephen continues to conduct the LGBT anti-bias trainings and provides resources and referrals for parents, students, educators, and other community groups. Also, Ann Monk, I want to recognize Ann. She's here. She works out of the district's health education programs and was working with the impact program, but also works to conduct trainings and implement many of the policies of the district. Holly Priebe-Diaz, who is putting out a fight today, I think, but she had a crisis come up at a school and couldn't be here today, is an eloquent speaker, and her office is the Human Relations Diversity Equity Office, and likewise they conduct trainings and speaking engagements on LGBT issues and other issues related to human rights issues within the school district. And I think I'm probably through with my 3 or 5 minutes at this point, and I'm happy to entertain questions.
Well, you know, I mean, if that many years of service, then you have a lot to say, and you have a lot of program, a lot of good work that you've done. With this discussion, again, we want to save time at the end for people to ask questions, but it's also important to know where you can go to get help, and we also want to talk about how we get our young people to know where to go and who to talk to, who to ask, because so many times they are very silent and feel alone in their fight and in their struggle. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we want to want to let you hear from Bev Meyer right now. Bev.
Thank you. Guess I need to use this. Yeah, okay. I'm back at Fairfax High School after a long hiatus, a long exile, working mostly in Europe over the past 20-some years, and I am lucky enough to be working in the school's brand new and we think unique, certainly in the LAUSD, but perhaps maybe even in the country, the development office. We're, as a public high school, we're the only one we know of that has a development office, an office that is set up to raise support for the school, to bring the community into the school. It's a model that exists in private schools and independent schools, in international schools throughout the world, but is rare, we think, in the public school setting. We are there to support the transformation of education and to support the instructional program at Fairfax. And because of my good fortune in being able to come back to Fairfax, as Pat said, I'm an alum of Fairfax. I also taught at Fairfax. And because of being in the office, something a lot of things come to the office that we have not necessarily, we've been in existence only since September, I should say. And although we had ideas about what we thought we would be doing, a lot of what has happened, like so much of life, has come to us rather than our pursuing it. And one of the things that came to us was an offer from another alum. A gentleman by the name of Rick Phillips and his brother, they wanted to donate to us a program that they devised back in probably around the same time that Project 10 was being developed. And it was in response to the Columbine incident and the killings there, that they decided it was time for some kind of program that the schools, through which the schools could use the richest resource schools have, which is the kids, the students. And because so many programs are devised by and implemented by the adults, this was a program that stood the model on its head and took a different direction, because kids know things that adults don't know at a school. Kids are involved in conversations. Kids are involved in seeing and hearing things that adults simply don't see and hear. And they also are, therefore, a tremendous resource and can take the role of preventing acts of bullying, and even before they become acts of violence, like in Columbine, long before that, when there's simple acts of exclusion, when any other kid at school is made to feel bad by other kids, then the best defense against that are other kids who can come to the rescue of and the support of the student who's being put in that position. And we all know that that happens to all of us. It happens to us for different reasons, perhaps, or different excuses rather than reasons. But almost all of us. I don't know a person who hasn't been in that position at some time during their childhood and their school life. So the program was designed to do just that, to use kids as a resource. And so because they were bringing it to us as a gift, it was hard to turn it down. But of course, in order to implement the program, it takes administrative support, teacher support, financial support. Resources have to be brought together to implement a program like this. And we didn't really have those resources yet. We still don't. But the program was the opportunity was too good to, what is that, the offer, someone made us an offer we couldn't refuse. So we took them up on it, and we began just in January of this year to implement this program. And because it's Fairfax, which is a special place, we have the resource of over 40 students. The students, and many of whom are here today, and the students were recommended by their teachers for leadership qualities, and perhaps not the traditional leadership qualities. They weren't necessarily the A students. They weren't necessarily those that shine in sports or academia, but rather something about those kids that said to the teachers who recommended them that they could play a role, an important role, perhaps one of the most important roles that I think that human beings can play as part of a community of human beings. And so all of these kids were recommended, and they had an opportunity to talk it over with parents. They had an opportunity to say no if they didn't want to be involved in the program, and over 40 of them said yes. They came together in January, February, I think, just at the end of the first semester. We had 2 days of training from someone from the Safe School Ambassadors program, which I think I neglected to mention, the name of the program, who came and worked with us for a couple of days. And then she left, and my colleague Joyce Clivefield and I, and a number of other faculty, and actually a number of adults on campus, we have working with us a neighbor, a woman who happens to live on Genesee, and she lives across the street from school. She hears the cheers from the football field and decided it was time to see what was going on besides football. She's here today. And we also have one of our security people who works with us in the program. She's here today. We have a number of people from different areas of the school, and of course we have the kids. And so, sort of jumping off feet first into the pool, we set the kids off to try to simply observe and listen. I think really that's the key to the program, is that kids are meant to be paying attention to what's going on campus. Not only in their classes, of course, but also at lunch, at nutrition, on the playing field, whenever they're with other students. And anytime they see an act of exclusion, someone being put down for whatever reason, and then, of course, higher or more stronger acts of bullying, violence, and even acts against the campus. So any kinds of acts against the environment in which we all live together at school. All of those are things that they're taught skills to intervene and take action against. And so that's what we've been working on, and we're still very much finding our way with how to implement the program. It's on top of the students' academic and sports and extracurricular involvement, so it's difficult to find time. Time is, I guess for all of us, always the most difficult thing to do, but I think it's something that we believe couldn't be time better invested, and we're hoping that we can integrate the program and some of the goals of the program more into the fabric of the school in the coming years. So that's what we're about.
Good job. Students, those who are involved with the project, would you stand up for a second? Hey, let's give them some cheers. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Of course, now you're not allowed to tell anybody that you know who they are, because part of the goals of the program is that they are not they don't wear any kind of identification,
right.
That they're simply part of the community, and that they're just working against bullying and for tolerance in very quiet ways.
Okay, so you know that old saying, what happens here stays here, in terms of their identities, okay? We have you, all right? Let's keep their backs on that, it's real important. Thank you so much, Bev. I mentioned we had a student representative on the panel. She goes by the name of Haku, and Haku, I don't want you to put you in a position where you want to talk about things that are not comfortable for you in terms of what happened, but if you can share some of your story, and what were your problems in getting support, and do you have it now? And if you can use Bev's mic.
Good afternoon, beautiful ladies and respectable gentlemen, and my fellow students. So, today I've been asked to represent Fairfax, and that's kind of hard, for I am an individual with very... I'm weird. I have been bullied so much in my life, and people know me as Haku Antoine Zara, but if you want to know the girl who used to cry every night, that would be Esther Chi. Okay, so let's start with the easy things. I am in JROTC. That is a military program, and every Thursday for school we are required to dress in a uniform. This uniform, it looks like a pickle, and that is what I get called. You pickle suit, or maybe an avocado, or a relish jar. These things may seem funny, but it's bullying. And with that, I am also very artistic. From the magnet coordinators to adults to my friends, I'm so artistic to the point that people kind of avoid talking to me. It's weird. I enter a lot of contests and I win a lot of contests, but people get jealous and you get bullied. You really do. Along with being artistic, I am not accepted with my family. I am lesbian, naturally, that's why I'm here. And I recently came out to my parents. There are a lot of things that happened. I got kicked out. I almost went to a shelter. Was it 6 months with the foster home? But social service came to my house, and they told my parents that they couldn't do that. I'm not 18, not yet. And I am so waiting for that to happen.
Oh, yes.
Because at home, I am ignored. I am a freak. And I get called by a lot of names from my mom. But I can pull through it. I've got a girlfriend, and I've got friends. I've got teachers to help me. I'm pulling through. I'm also pagan. And the list goes on. I'm pagan. It's like the modern day hippies, but I get called witch or devil worshiper and things like that. It's horrible. I'm also not accepted with Koreans at my school because I'm half Japanese. So I get excluded a lot. Along with that, I also dress very weird. Today I am toned down, but usually I have like rings on every finger, and my eyeliner is way out and my hair is spiked, and people bully me for that. You know, they go, "Where are you going, freak?" Or "It's not Halloween yet." And my experiences, it's just a lot of not talking to. I mean, I don't get invited to parties. Individually, my friends will like me, but they can't flaunt me. And it's just really hard to be so weird.
God, you're so beautiful. I can't believe
And not
it.
accepted.
You're beautiful, Haku. You really are. And that uniform she's talking about that people call a pickle, for God's sakes, these are young people that are representative of this country who may serve to keep this country safe. So that, there you go. I think you're going to make a lot of new friends here today, Haku. The most important thing, I think, in terms of what we can do is just to have an ear, to have some arms, besides giving her the hug that she needs right now. But the fact that Bev and Gail and Sarah and Daniel have talked about the resources that are available, that's very, very important and very crucial. If not now, when? So very necessary. And Haku, I hope that makes you feel a little better to know that some things are in place. There are places that you can go, people that you can talk to. And thank goodness you have some friends. And you make new ones today. So is this indicative, Gail, of the reason why Project 10 came together? And what can be done besides what you're doing? How do young people like Haku find out about Project 10 and knowing they can talk to someone? Because I think from what I'm hearing from Haku and a lot of other young people, they just don't know what to do. They're frightened, and who do they talk to? Those kids feel pressure too, don't they, I bet?
Thank you, and thank you, Haku, for sharing. That takes tremendous courage, and I know when I was that age, I never would have been able to get up here and articulate my feelings. In fact, I couldn't articulate my feelings until 6 years into therapy, so I thank you for sharing. You think I'm kidding? And $5,000. And although I'm sitting in a very good place now, I suffered many of the same indignities that Haku expressed to you. I grew up Jewish and still remain Jewish, and in a very heterosexual world, and it was very scary in those days. I didn't know a single person that was gay or lesbian. The word transgender was not part of our vocabulary, nor was gay or lesbian. It was just homosexual or queer. Those were the words I grew up with. And it was a scary world. And what Project 10 did in the early day, I'm talking with Virginia Uribe, who happens to be my life partner and my spouse now. She helped to give voice to those students like Haku that back in the 1980s, they simply had no vehicle to give a voice. And she was an advocate, and she's built a strong network of advocacy for students. And Project 10 continues to do that. I know through the work that Stephen is doing in the school district and GSA Network and Trevor Project, we work collectively. We do not work separately. And I think what makes it work in Southern California are the collaborative efforts of all of these organizations working together on common ground. In fact, last night we had our LA, get this one, LA LGBT Youth Advisory Council. You should see the the website. But we are working in a collaborative effort to make changes not only locally but throughout the state and nationally on getting legislation passed. One such piece of legislation is AB 7. They're calling AB 9, excuse me, Assembly Bill 9, and they're calling it Seth's Law, and named after Seth. And I'm sorry, what's his last name? Walsh from Tehachapi, who was one of the recent victims of a suicide. And although we don't like to name laws after people who have died especially, this is a very good assembly bill that will help put into place some anti-bullying policies on a statewide level, and we're urging you to contact your local assembly members to support this law, to help get it signed and put into or this bill and put into law. We make every effort through our collaborative efforts through GS, I'm speaking for all of us. We all put events together. We provide resources. One organization that was not mentioned here today is PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, and they too started as a support group for parents who were very distraught about having gay children or transgender children. And this organization became so successful in its support for parents that they are a very strong advocate now for LGBT rights. And when PFLAG marches in the Gay Pride Parade, I mean, there is a huge cheer that goes out. And I think, Stephen, you co-facilitated PFLAG group in the Silver Lake area as well. And so this is a very important resource for parents and friends of gays and lesbians and bisexual transgender people. They have wonderful websites, resources. I know Stephen has resources, GSA Network. If you go to their website, if you go to our website, project10.org, you will find innumerable resources for parents, educators, and students. The last thing I would like to say is that I mentioned very briefly the Models of Pride Conference, and this conference started up around 1992-93. Our first conference had 150 students. Well, our last conference had nearly 700. And we also, for the first time, included a free parent workshop, which will also be an ongoing workshop for parents and guardians of LGBT youth. And likewise, we have an adult educator workshop, and it's a small materials fee for that Dr. Judy Chasen, who also works in the Human Relations Diversity Equity Office, puts on, and it's a and Ann Monk helps to volunteer for that workshop, where they bring in a variety of guest speakers and talk about these issues. And that workshop is geared for educators and service providers such as social workers and therapists and community agency people. So if you want to know more about these things, we have a brochure. I'm happy to give you my contact information afterwards and put you on our email list.
All right, thank you, Gail.
Okay, unfortunately I forgot to mention to you that there are white cards on your seat for questions. We now are going to take questions from the audience. If you will write your question, send it up. The people on the side who are picking them up, then Pat will go through them, decide who should be answering the questions, and you will have an opportunity to get your questions answered. Also, while you're doing that, there is a yellow card, which is an evaluation of today's program. We really welcome any comments that you have to make, pro or con, because we read them, and then when we do our programs, we take the information that you give us and try to integrate it into the programs that we present. So please do that.
All right, what we just heard is something that we can do. We just got empowered, AB 9. I love empowerment, AB 9. Do your homework on that. All right, she just threw out something there that could be very, very helpful. Sarah, you want to say something real quick before we get to the...
Yeah, I just, as you're thinking of your question, I wanted to kind of speak to Haku's experience and kind of where the whole room, the energy in the room has gone. I want to be sure that we take this with a lot of a serious tone, in the sense that there are a lot of people around us that are hurting and are dealing with things every day. And that's why it's so important we continue these dialogues and we talk about how we can continue to make changes in the environments that we're in. But I just want to recognize the power in the voice of youth and their experience, and just speaking out against what your experience has been and being able to share that with people. And I'm so grateful that you have people in your life that are your friends and that are standing with you. And there are many resources, and we've mentioned a couple of them here today. But as we continue to build these safe spaces, I think it's important that we all are available to our youth as people that will really listen to their experience and hear what it is that they need and what their voice is saying at that time. So if you know of a young person that's next to you or that you have in your life, I just want you to continue that dialogue of empowering them and making sure that you're doing all you can to create a safe environment for them. So thank you for sharing, Haku. I wanted to make sure we addressed just how incredibly strong you are for being here, for speaking out, and for teaching us all a lesson. For everybody else in the room, know that there are people in this room before you leave today that want to connect with you as a resource, that want you to know that we're here to listen to your story and help you in any way possible.
All right, then with that, we should just mention too that the National Council for Jewish Women is a safe school space. So for any students or any young people that need some understanding and support without bias, you can always come to the National Council of Jewish Women. We're very, very thankful for that. Someone gave me a card that said, "Let's remember Larry King from Oxnard." That was one of the stories I was talking about in terms of just the extent that teen bullying and because of someone's gender or orientation went just way too far. A person losing their life. And as a result of that, someone asked the question, what happens to the people that bully? Which I think is pretty relevant to ask. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cute in a way, but they said, is there some kind of bully rehab? Well, maybe there should be. I mean, it sounds just very, it's secondary on the surface, but what about the people that do these kinds of things? Mm-hmm. Most of them are young people as well. So, do any of you have any, Daniel?
Yes. And I just wanted to bring up again AB 9 sets law. One of the really important things that this bill is trying to do, it's trying to move us away from zero tolerance policies, which I know have gotten a lot of publicity lately as being a good solution to this problem. Like on Glee, that's seen as a good thing. But in reality, zero tolerance policies, what they promote is us throwing away bullies. And really, what oftentimes a lot of us have encountered is that bullies themselves have been suffered from some form of harassment or bullying themselves. And so it's important that we take a step back and move away from like an individualistic approach of being like, you individually hurt this other individual, and we look at our society and what's going on with the culture of violence and meanness, and just attacking difference, which I think, as Haku really bravely shared, people will find reasons to attack you for various things as simple as wearing like what kind of uniform you wear. And so one of the good things about Seth's law is that it would help push schools to start thinking about programs of education and support for students that are harassing, and not just focus on the students that are harassed. I mean, students like this need some kind of counseling and a space to talk about whatever internal pain they're carrying that they're lashing out at others. I mean, that coupled with really talking about building a culture of respect and valuing of difference is really important. That's something that I think some schools do really well, but some schools it's not on their radars. Part of their educational objective is making sure that we all learn how to navigate and respect people that are different from us.
Someone else wrote a question, and they addressed it to you, Haku, and they wanted to tell you how powerful and courageous and beautiful you are. And this is a very relevant question as well. Do you feel that one problem is students who just stand by while the bullies attack are part of the problem? Should we give these students the tools to learn to take action and stand up to the bullies? We've heard a little bit about what you're doing, Bev, at Fairfax, but are these programs indicative throughout? And would that help? Sounds like it would, because again, they're young people as well. They probably need the encouragement, or also need to know that I'm going to be okay even if I speak up. Because nobody likes people that rat on other folks, right? Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. That's really big. And they also worry about their own circumstances.
I think like programs like the Safe School Ambassador really do help, because you get to learn so many things and so many new techniques, and you become aware of what's actually going on. Like before this, I thought Safe School Ambassadors was, a snitching program. But that's just a rumor. So you go out and check it out, and you learn like how to deal with situations. That 2 days of training, 2 days changed my life. 2 days let me realize what we can do as students for our community to help for the future. No more bullying, no more name calling or anything like that.
Well, thank you, Haku. Here's another.
Well, I just wanted to add to that.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. In the work that I do, it's actually the really beautiful thing about our organization is that we work with students and help give them the tools, and then we get out of their way. Because students like Haku are more than capable of and intelligent enough and powerful enough to really advocate for themselves with the right support and the right training, and say, this is what I need for my school environment. So luckily, Haku and Fairfax have the Safe Schools Ambassadors. They have a very strong GSA club, but other schools unfortunately don't have the same level of administrative or teacher support and buy-in for this issue. And in those schools, we work with the Gay Straight Alliance clubs to help support the students and get them empowered and get the emotional support they need by connecting with organizations such as the Trevor Project. And then these students really just take over, and I was just yesterday in Santa Clarita working with students who all the Gay Straight Alliance clubs in that school district are going to go meet with their superintendent tomorrow and present a list of recommendations that they need to make their school district safer. And it's all the students generated it. It's just I've been lucky enough to be able to help facilitate that process, but it's the students who are going to be in that room tomorrow and say, superintendent, this is what we need from you. So it's really beautiful when students step up and really take the lead in this effort.
Politics is power, and we're going to need more. Yeah. Really, when they put your money where your mouth is, and we're talking about bills being passed, that's really how you get things done, because that lays down some laws that really gives you a strong framework from where to go. A question was, how does city, local, state government help? The mayor, city council. There's a Safe Schools Improvement Act, number 1648, sponsored by Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. It helps schools and school districts develop and improve anti-bullying and anti-harassment initiatives while using existing funds. Yeah, very important thing there, okay, funding. So, but again, just the fact that she has stepped forward to try to get this initiative passed is very, very important. Another issue, Los Angeles is very diverse. Where can parents of young transgender children go for support, education, especially Spanish-speaking families that need more resources or counseling in their native language? Anybody answer that question?
Well, the Trevor Project has lots of resources that are listed not only on our website, but if you call our lifeline, even as a parent requesting specific information, you can give us kind of your location and we can tell you more about meeting times and people to call. We work a lot on making sure that the resources we do give out are people we've called, and we've actually confirmed that they are the most appropriate resource in those situations. So I would encourage anybody to call our lifeline if you're looking for a resource. But there are several organizations. Bienestar does a lot of work around support groups and also different networks with families who do have trans-identified or queer-identified individuals in their families. So that would be one place to start. But whomever asked that question, feel free to call the lifeline or talk to me later for more specifics, just depending on the area that you live in. There's another resource?
Yes, there's this organization called Trans Youth Family Advocates, And they're this wonderful national organization, and they provide an amazing level of individual support to family members and parents who are working through supporting and accepting and loving their transgender children. And they will come out and meet with the parents. They will go out and advocate and accompany parents and families as they work through the school system. So they're a wonderful resource. And we have a person locally here in Los Angeles who will meet with folks. So Trans Youth Family Advocates is a wonderful organization.
Okay, interesting question here. They say, well, if you want kids to stop or to not start smoking, you teach them when they're very, very young. Okay, so what efforts are being made to teach compassion and other judgments in school and youth groups as young as possible, even in daycare?
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agreement on that one.
That's where it starts, right? When we see these habits very early on. The Trevor Project does lifeguard workshops, and this is a workshop where we actually go into schools and we do a lot of activities around analyzing the impact of our words. So when I say, what does it mean when you say that's so gay? Or when you say my backpack is so gay? How many of us have ever heard that? Okay, we've heard that, okay? It's almost just a common thing you hear all the time. So I ask people, and I'll ask the youth here, when I say that's so gay, your backpack is so gay, does that mean that my backpack is sexually attracted to a backpack of the same kind? That's not what we're saying, right? What we're saying is that it's not a positive thing. And so sometimes just having those dialogues with people in middle school, even in elementary school, and talking about the impact of using language that we hear that's so common and not understanding what it really means when you're saying is one step in really rethinking how we communicate with each other and when we use these phrases that we hear over and over. So if anybody is interested in having a workshop come to your school or to your youth group, please let me know. I'm happy to connect you with that. But then in middle school and maybe even younger in elementary school, I think it's really important to talk about how when we hurt somebody, right, because they maybe look a little bit different than us, the impact that that has on their overall well-being. If that makes them feel sad or if that makes them feel happy. And those are conversations that you can continue from kindergarten into even the younger ages of elementary school and just forming that idea of compassion. A lot of what we know now about bullying and seeing the impact is that when you are bullied, is the person who even sees the impact of what they're doing won't stop, right? That's the difference between bullying and teasing. If I'm teasing somebody and I hear or see that they're not happy with what I'm doing, then I have a moment of stopping and saying, oh, I was just teasing. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry, right? But when we're bullying, we continue, even when we see that. And that's the difference. And it's important to let younger youth know that when you see that somebody's hurt by what you say, it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. And you can learn from that and move on. And building those life skills in an individual. Even as adults, sometimes we're put in situations where people don't treat us the right way and haven't learned the skill of saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, I didn't mean to bully you. We all face that.
Thank you, Sarah. I've also been told that the LAUSD implements the second step program for grades K through 8. And in this curriculum, it's the #1 violence prevention program. It teaches impulse control, empathy, and skills that bullies do not have. They certainly don't have impulse control. So again, for as much as we say the LAUSD doesn't do, congratulations, LAUSD, for at least getting some things started. Really, where others would not tread. One card asked me to comment on the It Gets Better campaign. Is there someone here that can address the It Gets Better campaign?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about that. For folks who might not be familiar with the It Gets Better campaign, it was a YouTube social media campaign started by Dan Savage, who's a sex advice columnist, who him and his husband, I believe, were partnered, in response to the wave of highly publicized suicide deaths of young people. In the fall of last year, launched this video project where LGBT adults could share their own experiences overcoming adversity and just send a message of hope and your life will get better. Just kind of hang in there, know that this hardship you're going through is a momentary challenge. And so that's definitely been a very popular, and it's been really well covered in the media. Those of us who work with youth have been very appreciative of that video message, just because it is important for young people to hear from LGBT adults that there is a life, there is a future, and that it can get better. However, though, one of the pieces that we felt was missing from that campaign was a focus on the now and on helping empower students on transforming their schools now. I mean, some could say that the message of the It Gets Better campaign boils down to just tough it out, high school will end one day, and then your life could be magical. And not to be flip, but I mean, that's not the best message when, folks like, young people like Haku are sharing their stories of what life is like every day in their schools.
Exactly.
And so the GSA Network, in conjunction with our youth leaders, launched the Make It Better project, which is makeitbetterproject.org, where it's young people, it's speaking to young people, sharing their stories about what they're doing now to transform their school and share ideas and resources. So the focus is on, yes, you will have a wonderful future, but in the meantime, what you can do is you can stop having to take this harassment and bullying by these steps. And it's a very beautiful project as well, and I think the two together have produced a much richer message to LGBT youth.
Okay. Now, for people who work with teens in after-school programs, how can they combat teen bullying when they see a lack of parental involvement? Okay, that was her comment.
Everybody's like,
That's a heavy one.
when there's a lack of parental
involvement.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's on so many different levels, right? I mean, it's hard to argue a parent speaking about the language or the behaviors that are in the house if they have so many different jobs that they need to keep in order to bring financial stability to their home, and they don't maybe have that time. Or for the many reasons that households don't have all the resources to be able to talk about these things or spend the time educating and getting to know their youth or their children, right, in the home. But I think it from an educator's perspective, allowing parents to know that in your school these things aren't tolerated and that this is something that we want to dialogue. And when you come on to our campus or when you come on to our program, you participate and you agree to these policies. And so we want to educate you around this. And we also have certain workshops or classes or resources for you as a parent to start thinking about what the impact is of your role in this. I think is really important. And when you even address it and just come up to a parent and say, I notice you don't feel comfortable talking about this, or maybe you feel that this isn't important to talk about, but I'm concerned and I just want to express that I'm here as somebody who's willing to talk to you about it. That conversation sticks with them. And however they continue to develop what their plan of action is going to be, if you're somebody that is willing to talk to them about that and go there, whatever the situation is, maybe it's about LGBTQ or just being recognized as being different, I think it makes a strong statement. So all of us can be involved when we see something happening and confronting it with those individuals as, I don't feel comfortable with this and I'd like to keep talking to you about it. I think that's really helpful. Does somebody else on the panel want to share?
I think it's an excellent question, and it's not one that's easily resolved. However, there are some techniques and strategies for what we call assertive communication, and I know the parent-child relationship can be a very difficult one, but when trying to communicate with your own parent about any issue whatsoever, some of the strategies would include get them in a neutral place. For instance, if it's mother, don't try and have this conversation with her in the kitchen. It's not going to work. That's her territory. So you might suggest a place that's more neutral, maybe going into the yard or into another room that's more of a neutral room, or the local park, or let's take a walk. Trying to talk or communicate to your parent when they're angry or when you're angry is not a good idea. You need a cooling off period and an appropriate time that you think is best. Mother, father, there's something I would like to talk to you about. Can you make some time for me, please? It needs to be respectful communication, so agree beforehand to listen to one another without interruption. Agree to disagree and to honor that. And always use the I statement. Mother, father, when you say this or do this, this is how it makes me feel. I feel this, I feel that, this is what I would like from you. And don't expect it to happen overnight. Those messages need to be ongoing. And there's also something called broken record technique, and an example of that was when I was trying to invite my parents for dinner one night, and I'd like you to come and meet some of my friends. Well, you're so busy, you're about nothing going on, but I'd really like you and Dad to come for dinner. Why, you don't really mean it. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but I would really like you to come for dinner. Just keep going back to the focus. Yes, I understand you're busy. Yes, I understand you're upset, but I'd really like you to come for dinner. Finally, after about 10 minutes of this, in the back of the room, my father says, "We'll be there." And that was it. And so, again, don't go astray. Stick to your focal point. And those are just some techniques. And again, I statement. Avoid accusatory statements. Oh, you make me so mad when you say these things and do these things, because when you do that, it puts the other person on the defensive. And so when communicating important issues and very strong feelings that you have, avoid putting the person on the defensive. Avoid accusatory statements. Use I statements. Be honest. Share what you think. Share what you want, share what you're asking for, and sometimes, and bring resources. Sometimes, just as we told, I was a health education teacher, and so that was sex education, HIV, AIDS, all the tough stuff. And the parents always wanted to know, well, how can I talk to my students about this? Or the students said, how can I talk to my parents about these issues? Bring pamphlets, bring brochures, articles, whatever, lay it down on the couch, on the coffee table, and they'll pick it up and read it. And it could be a starting point for a dialogue on some of these issues.
Wow. You know, if I'm listening to Gail, I'm thinking, write that down. If my grown daughter was here, that's why Mom said no so much. She, you know, I talked to her in the kitchen. So I said no.
I couldn't get my mother out of the kitchen.
I love that. I'm making light of that, but that's a very, very good point. So, you know, that other adage, time flies. I think we could have spent all afternoon, but you know, our time is coming to a close here. But wow, it's been very informative and fun for me, and very eye-opening. So I hope to take some of these things back also to my own newsroom in terms of the kind of stories that we report. And when at least we talk about these kinds of issues, I've got some background to take back as well. And you, young lady, you're going to be okay. You just got to keep telling yourself.
That's a very tough situation, and unfortunately, it's a common one. I think a lot of the messages that in the LGBT community we send out and we receive, it's to be proud and an activist. It means you have to be publicly out to everyone whenever it happens. And I know when I was a young person coming out, I definitely felt that pressure of like, I have to come out now, and if I don't come out now, I'm being dishonest, or I'm not being a good activist, or there's all this pressure. But I think, Haku, it seems like you already have the sense that that's not the case, that sometimes it's not safe, or it's not the best decision to come out, especially if you're underage and you're financially dependent on your parents. I mean, if it sounds like your friend Paul's family would not be very accepting. Patrick, oh, I'm sorry. Patrick's family would not be very accepting, so I would say that he should not come out if he already doesn't think it's a good idea. And I think you have a very strong role there to support him and validate his decision. Because if Diana is not going to be there to support him, I think you can be there and say, yeah, you know what, you should be safe, and that's number one. Wait till you're 18, you're financially independent, maybe you're in college, maybe you have a job, and then if it makes sense and you can come out. But there's no pressure, there's no requirement. It's just about people being safe and not being thrown out or not having to deal with harassment or rejection from their family. So
I agree with that. That's probably with anything, whether you're gay or not. You know, some things you just don't come forward with. You know, right? I don't like that boyfriend. I don't like this hairstyle. I don't like the tattoo. I don't like this and that. So that's probably just like when he's comfortable, right?
Can I add real quick? I know we have to wind up, but some of the tactics or strategies I just talked about, and perhaps what Patrick needs to say to his friend, is I need you to respect my decision.
That's right.
If you are my friend, I need you to respect me. And again, we need to agree to disagree. And what I need from you is your friendship and support in my decision. And again, Daniel nailed it on the head. It's not safe for a lot of young people to come out to family members, nor do we necessarily encourage it. And as educators, we have a responsibility that if we direct a child to come out to their parent, and they do, and something terrible happens, such as rejection from the home, we could be held legally liable for that. So friends need to be respectful of one another. We need to listen to one another, and we need to ask our friends to support us and to respect us.
Thank you, Gail. Before we give this wonderful panel a round of applause, I want to remind all of you that we here at Council, we are a safe house. We have hotlines. We have counselors here. For those of you at Fairfax, all you got to do is cross the street. Pick up a telephone. That's how I found Council House when my 13-year-old daughter was having a problem and I was teaching at Fairfax. So please, make sure you use this. We have these cards outside. Pick them up so you have this phone number. And thank you for this amazing, amazing panel.
I want to recognize the youth that are here and that stand up as leaders and just say applause to you all for being here.
Okay, and our next event, which is going to be wonderful and quite an eye-opener, we're doing an event on prostitution, June 22nd. It's a night event, and for those of you who are not aware of it, prostitution is a huge problem in this area, and I think you will find it quite exciting. So you will get our mailings on it. Thank you for coming.